While Travis Kelce took to the field under the bright lights of the stadium, his most famous fan was notably absent from the stands, a silence that spoke volumes to those who witnessed the singer's ordeal months prior. The memory of that frigid January game against the Buffalo Bills likely loomed large, a nightmare of Arctic temperatures that turned breath to ice, layered in what felt like every blanket she owned, yet still shivering uncontrollably in the open-air suite. The journey itself was a gauntlet of logistical chaos and a feverish, fatiguing push through her demanding Eras Tour schedule. That experience, a brutal collision of sub-zero fandom and superstar obligations, may have served as a stark lesson. Choosing to watch from a warm, private location wasn't a snub, but a hard-earned strategy for self-preservation, a quiet decision to support her partner without reliving the physically punishing spectacle that her previous show of support had become. Having diligently supported her fiancé from the discreet shadows of the stadium suite for his last 3 consecutive games, her absence for this pivotal match was both noticeable and poignant. While she had mastered the art of being present yet unseen, a quiet force of encouragement away from the camera's glare, she was nowhere to be found as Kelce and his Kansas City teammates faced off against their bitter AFC rivals. This created a subtle but powerful narrative twist on the day, as the game unfolded in a frustrating cascade of errors and ultimately ended in a deflating loss. The one presence often credited as a lucky charm was missing. Her empty seat seemed to echo the team's on-field struggles, leaving fans to wonder if her steadfast, if hidden, support had been a silent cornerstone now palpably absent in a moment of defeat. The now infamous Buffalo game in January 2024 existed as a pivotal, if punishing, chapter in their early romance, a night where her very public support for the Chiefs culminated in a dramatic 27-24 victory on the scoreboard, but a private ordeal behind the scenes. While the world saw the glamorous pop star celebrating a hard-fought win, the reality for Swift and Kelce's inner circle was far more grueling. Months later, the full picture would be revealed by Turner Sports' Adam Lefkoe, who detailed a truly torrid night for their entourage, a saga of logistical nightmares and brutal, bone-chilling conditions that transcended mere fandom. That victory, therefore, became a double-edged memory. It was the night that proved she could be his good luck charm, but also a stark lesson in the extreme physical cost and chaotic strain required to be present in such a hostile environment, a calculus that undoubtedly informs her more selective attendance adding now. A layer of credible, insider confirmation to the speculation. Sportscaster Adam Lefkoe later contextualized the night by revealing, "I have heard from people very close that it was not a great experience in Buffalo," during an appearance on Kay Adams' Up and Adams show. This simple statement, sourced directly from within the couple's inner circle, opened a window into the profound disconnect between the public's perception of a fairy tale night and the private reality. The phrase, "not a great experience," became a polite umbrella for a cascade of failures, a battle against the elements so severe it was less about fandom and more about survival, a level of celebrity scrutiny that felt suffocating, and a travel itinerary that was more exhausting than exhilarating. This first-hand account transformed the story from mere rumor into a validated, pivotal moment, solidifying the Buffalo trip not as a romantic milestone, but as a brutal trial by fire that would inevitably inform all future decisions about game day attendance. The sportscaster Adam Lefkoe added a definitive and telling coda to the story when he recounted on the Up and Adams show, "I have heard from people very close that it was not a great experience in Buffalo." He then drove the point home with a weighty, inclusive addendum, "It was not. For all parties involved." Before delivering the final, unmistakable emphasis, "and I'm talking about the most famous of all the parties," a not-so-subtle nod to Swift herself. This clarification was crucial. It confirmed that the ordeal was a collective trial, but one whose burdens fell most heavily on the world's most visible woman. The statement painted a picture of an entire support system stretched to its limits, where the logistics, security concerns, and sheer intensity of the spotlight focused on one person created a ripple effect of strain throughout the entire group. It transformed the anecdote from a simple story about bad weather into a case study of the unique and often crushing pressures that accompany her every public move, making her subsequent, more calculated absences not just understandable, but a necessary strategy for the well-being of everyone involved. The true catalyst for Taylor Swift's more selective attendance becomes starkly clear when examining the now legendary Buffalo game, a night that was far more trial than triumph for her inner circle. As sportscaster Adam Lefkoe revealed, the Kelce camp entered Highmark Stadium anticipating a classic NFL showdown, but were instead met with the unadulterated fury of the Bills Mafia. He explained, "I think that it kind of shocked the Kelce family and everyone related to the Kelce family the reception they got. I think they were kind of going and being like, this is going to be an amazing game with good energy. And they got there and they experienced Bills Mafia in full form, in its complete ruthlessness. This wasn't just rowdy fandom, it was a targeted, overwhelming onslaught of sound and hostility that transcended the game itself, creating a palpably tense and uncomfortable environment for the entire group. The sub-zero temperatures were bad enough, but this human element, the sheer, shocking intensity of the reception, cemented the experience as a definitive ordeal. For Swift, whose every move is scrutinized, being at the epicenter of such ruthless energy, compounded by the physical misery, transformed what should have been a supportive gesture into a jarring lesson. It established a calculus where the emotional and physical toll of certain away games could simply be too high, making her current, more strategic absences not a reflection of diminished support, but a hard-won wisdom about the price of public presence. The true legacy of that frigid January night in Buffalo was not the Chiefs' narrow victory, but the profound, collective realization it sparked within Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce's inner circle. As recounted by sportscaster Adam Lefkoe, what began as an anticipated night of good energy quickly devolved into a shocking immersion into the complete ruthlessness of the Bills Mafia, an overwhelming atmosphere that, combined with the brutal cold and logistical chaos, left them utterly shell-shocked. The experience was so intensely jarring that it culminated in a simple, decisive verdict in its aftermath. As Lefkoe concluded, "And I think they left and went, I don't know if I want to experience that again. It was that kind of a level of crazy." This statement is the crucial key to understanding Swift's current absences. It's not a matter of diminished support, but a calculated boundary. That level of crazy became a benchmark, a line in the sand that transformed her approach from unconditional attendance to strategic presence, making her choice to skip certain hostile away games not a subject for speculation, but a perfectly understandable act of self-preservation. The true legacy of that frigid January night in Buffalo was etched not just by the Chiefs' narrow victory, but by the profound, collective realization it sparked within Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce's inner circle, a realization starkly framed by the night's defining, contrasting images. As sportscaster Adam Lefkoe revealed, what began as an anticipated display of good energy quickly devolved into a shocking immersion into the complete ruthlessness of the Bills Mafia, an overwhelming hostility that, combined with the brutal cold and logistical chaos, left them shell-shocked. This jarring private experience unfolded even as the public witnessed an entirely different scene from the very same suite, a shirtless Jason Kelce, embodying the untamed spirit of the NFL, chugging beers and leaping into the roaring crowd with uninhibited joy. Yet, for Swift and her direct group, the pandemonium that fueled Jason's legendary moment was the same level of crazy that prompted their decisive verdict, "I don't know if I want to experience that again." This stark contrast, between Jason's ecstatic embrace of the chaos and their own overwhelmed retreat, perfectly captures why her attendance is now so strategic. The same uncontrollable energy that creates a football legend for one person can be an intolerable ordeal for another, making her calculated absences from such environments not a mystery, but a mark of hard-earned wisdom. While there was no sign of Taylor Swift in the stands during Sunday's loss to their bitter rivals, and while her pattern of skipping arduous road games has been well established in the months since that fateful night in Buffalo, her absence this time carried a different, more understood weight. The lack of a sighting didn't immediately mean she wasn't there in some private capacity, as she has mastered the art of the discreet, camera-eluding presence. However, the very fact that such a possibility even warrants consideration underscores the lasting impact of the earlier ordeal. The calculated distance she now maintains from certain away games is no longer a source of mere speculation but the logical outcome of a hard-learned lesson. It is a strategic choice, born from the complete ruthlessness of Buffalo, a night that taught her and her inner circle that some environments demand a price too high, transforming her non-attendance from a headline into a simple, pragmatic boundary for her well-being and peace of mind. The singer's current approach to supporting her fiancé at Chiefs games has evolved into a masterclass in calculated discretion, defined by a habit of low-key appearances from the sheltered recesses of VIP suites. This strategic shift towards anonymity is not an accident but a direct consequence of experience, with the traumatic Buffalo trip serving as the pivotal turning point. That night, a chaotic blend of brutal weather, ruthless fan energy, and logistical nightmares, starkly contrasted by Jason Kelce's very public, shirtless revelry, cemented a clear boundary. The statement from insiders that they left questioning ever wanting to experience that again revealed a fundamental recalibration. Therefore, her absence from any given game, especially a hostile road environment, is no longer a mystery to be solved but the predictable outcome of a hard-won strategy. It is a conscious choice to prioritize peace and privacy over performative support, proving that her most powerful statement is not always her presence, but sometimes, her purposeful and well-considered absence. Taylor Swift's approach to supporting Travis Kelce has undergone a deliberate and understandable transformation, evolving from the very public, and ultimately punishing, spectacle of the Buffalo game into a masterclass in low-key discretion. The ordeal that night, a perfect storm of brutal weather, the complete ruthlessness of the opposing fans, and the shocking intensity that left the entire Kelce entourage reeling, served as a pivotal lesson. It directly inspired her current strategy of remaining towards the back of VIP suites, a habit of such effective concealment that her presence is often only confirmed through post-game glimpses or insider reports. This context makes Sunday's lack of any sighting particularly telling. While the absence of evidence doesn't definitively mean she wasn't there, the established pattern suggests a conscious choice. The fact that it has sometimes only become clear she attended after a game concludes, and that no such confirmation has emerged for this latest loss, solidifies the narrative. Her attendance is no longer a given but a carefully calculated decision, a hard-earned right to prioritize peace and privacy over the relentless public gaze, a boundary firmly drawn in the wake of a level of crazy she has no intention of experiencing again. It was a bitterly disappointing night for the Chiefs, who fell 28-21 to their biggest playoff threat in the AFC, a loss made all the more palpable by the notable absence of the team's most famous good luck charm. Yet, Taylor Swift's missing presence in the stands was not a mystery but the logical conclusion of a strategy forged in the chaos of a previous, equally intense matchup. The traumatic experience in Buffalo, a night of shocking hostility, brutal cold, and logistical nightmares that left her inner circle vowing never to repeat it, permanently recalibrated her approach to road games. This evolved into a habit of meticulously low-key appearances, if she attended at all, often her presence only confirmed after the final whistle. Therefore, as the Chiefs struggled on the field, her absence from the suite was a silent testament to that hard-earned boundary. It was not a fair-weather fan retreating, but a global superstar making a calculated decision to support her partner from a distance, insulating herself from the very level of crazy that once threatened to overshadow the game itself. The already bitter disappointment of the Chiefs' loss was sharply compounded by a frightening moment just before halftime, as Travis Kelce, 36, remained on the turf for a concerning few seconds after absorbing a brutal hit to the chest from linebacker Cole Bishop in the end zone. The image of him slowly, laboriously getting to his feet and walking off the field surrounded by trainers, while his teammates headed for the locker room, was a stark portrait of vulnerability. This scene, playing out in the heart of a rival stadium, viscerally justified the strategic absence of his most famous supporter. The memory of Buffalo's complete ruthlessness had already established a boundary, teaching that such environments exact an extreme emotional toll. But witnessing this specific moment of physical peril, the jarring sight of her fiancé in visible trouble, from within that roaring, hostile crowd would have transformed concern into sheer agony. Her decision to watch from a distance was thus tragically validated. It was never about a lack of support, but a profound act of self-preservation, a conscious choice to avoid being a spectator in the arena where the man she loves was forced to endure both a public defeat and a private moment of pain. The culmination of the Chiefs' frustrating night was crystallized in a single, punishing play in the end zone, a pass from Patrick Mahomes that arrived slightly behind Travis Kelce, a split-second flaw that turned the tight end into a defenseless target. In that vulnerable moment, linebacker Cole Bishop drilled him with his right shoulder, a brutal hit compounded by Terrell Bernard's opportunistic shove on his way down. As the 36-year-old Kelce remained on the turf before slowly walking away with trainers, the scene was a stark distillation of the sport's violent reality. This very brutality, the physical toll exacted in the heart of a hostile stadium serves as the ultimate justification for Taylor Swift's calculated absence. The chaotic ruthlessness she experienced in Buffalo was not merely about fan hostility, but an introduction to the entire ecosystem of peril that her fiancé inhabits. Watching such a visceral, dangerous hit unfold from within the roaring crowd of a rival team would transform support into torture. Her decision to remain distant is thus a protective measure, a conscious choice to shield herself from being a direct witness to the moments where the game she loves threatens the man she loves, solidifying that her presence on the screen is far less important than her peace of mind away from it. The frightening culmination of the Chiefs' disastrous drive was a scene of stark contrasts and palpable urgency. After the slightly off-target pass from Mahomes left him exposed, Travis Kelce absorbed a devastating shoulder hit from Cole Bishop and a subsequent shove to the ground, lying motionless in the end zone as the Chiefs' medical team rushed to his side. In a moment that laid bare the brutal physical stakes of the game, the 36-year-old star, visibly shaken, was forced to leave the field with a mere 3 seconds on the clock, a solitary and vulnerable figure exiting as kicker Harrison Butker raced on to salvage points from the wreckage. This visceral sequence, the immediate medical response, Kelce's slow walk to the locker room, and the cold efficiency of the field goal unit, serves as the ultimate justification for Taylor Swift's calculated distance. The chaotic ruthlessness she witnessed in Buffalo was a lesson in the ecosystem of hostility that surrounds these games, but watching this specific, harrowing injury unfold from within that very environment would have been an entirely different order of anguish. Her absence, therefore, is not a fair-weather retreat but a deeply rational choice, a hard-earned strategy to insulate herself from the traumatic reality of seeing the man she loves become a vulnerable target in the arena, proving that the most supportive thing she can do sometimes is not be there to see it at all. In a moment that perfectly encapsulated the fine line between spectacle and sacrifice, Travis Kelce's response to the brutal hit was one of defiant theater. As he walked away from the play, cupping his ear to the roaring Buffalo Bills fans on his way to the locker room, he appeared to mouth the words, "I love it, I love it," a performance of invincibility for the very crowd whose ruthlessness had once overwhelmed his inner circle. Yet, this bravado was immediately undercut by sobering medical reality. He was checked over by trainers and formally evaluated for a concussion in the locker room, the protocol revealing the genuine physical peril lurking beneath the charismatic swagger. This stark contrast, the public persona that thrives on the chaos versus the private, vulnerable human body requiring evaluation, is the critical context for Taylor Swift's absence. For Kelce, this environment is the brutal arena he is wired to conquer, even at a personal cost. For her, having learned from the torrid Buffalo experience, it is an ecosystem of hostility and potential trauma to be managed from a distance. Her decision to not be in the stands was a choice to witness the player, not the patient, to support the strength without being a front-row spectator to the vulnerability that necessarily underpins it, a boundary that is both pragmatic and profoundly understanding of the brutal game he plays. This final detail offers a poignant sense of respite, bringing the couple's recent cycle of intense scrutiny and physical peril to a temporary close. The Chiefs' bye week finally grants Swift and Kelce the invaluable gift of uninterrupted downtime, a chance to reconnect away from the roaring crowds, the blinding camera flashes, and the ever-looming threat of injury. It is a period for Kelce to truly rest and recover from the brutal hits and concussion evaluation, and for Swift to offer her support in a private, peaceful setting, far from the ruthlessness of opposing stadiums. As they look ahead to the next game against the Denver Broncos, this intermission solidifies the new normal they have forged, a partnership that thrives in the quiet moments just as much as it withstands the public glare, proving that their strongest connection is built not in the VIP suite, but in the cherished, camera-free space of their own company.